Welcome to Temasek Polytechnic virtual open house. So this particular talk is really about jump-starting your future with Temasek Poly, and we are the ECG counselors. So at Temasek Poly, ECG is really to help you focus, to help our students develop their self-concept and deepen their understanding and commitment towards a sector they are likely to enter after they graduate to successfully transit to work. I'm Edward, the Senior Education Career Guidance Counselor with Temasek Poly, and today with me is Shalene, who is also a fellow ECG counselor. So for this today's talk, really we are going to focus on the Polytechnic education for you, and how do you actually go about making informed decision, and what is the process like in order for you to select which is the possible pathways for you after you have completed O-levels, N-levels, or even your NITEC and higher NITEC. So I'm going to provide we're going to provide a framework later. Yeah, but let me talk about is Polytechnic education for you? So in the Polytechnic, right, the mindset that you need to actually have is really, do you have a career in mind? Let's say, do you want to be an engineer? Do you want to be, let's say, a marketeer, right? Having a career in mind will allow you to know which is the diploma that most probably you would like to actually go towards. Then the next question is, are you self-directed? Because in the poly environment, it is very autonomy, and therefore you need to have your own drive and motivation. So that not unlike the secondary schools whereby the teachers will hound you to do your homework, and in a polytechnic environment, you are really on your own. Although there are support systems whereby if you have things that you don't understand, you can ask. Yeah, but it is about you asking rather than they really providing. Now, another thing is also, can you actually work independently as well as in group? Okay, something to note about polytechnic education, just like IT education, is that the purpose of the qualification is to make you work ready, right? Which is very different from, let's say, the JC pathway, which Shalene later will elaborate more about. So each polytechnic is the same and yet different. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, as you can actually, if you look through all the 5 polytechnics in Singapore, you realize that they have similar courses, right? But yet there are also courses that are different. So later again, Shalene will elaborate more about what exactly it is. But then what about Temasek Polytechnic? What is the things that they're going to offer that is very different? Well, the thing that is quite different is that they do have a kind of a student profile, meaning that they wish to develop students, okay, in different areas. And what are these areas? Well, they want you to become a lifelong learner, right? To be self-directed, be resilient, and be competent. Next, they want you to be a future-oriented creator, right? To have the ability to problem solve, to have the literacy for digital and information, and also be innovative and also entrepreneurial. Now, there's also the value-centered leaders, so they want to develop you as a leader. So leadership is something that is important. Character and citizenship is important, as well as to hone your communicative and as well as collaborative skills. Now, coming Saturday, right, there will be a talk by the principal as well as the registrar as well as the director for admission, right? During that talk, they will share more, okay, about how the Temasek Poly will come about developing you to be the students that you are going to be. So earlier on, I said that we're going to share with you a framework, and this is the framework that I'm talking about. Okay, there are 4 things that is on it. One is knowing yourself, exploring your options, making decisions, as well as taking action. So we'll bring you through these 4 steps, right, so that you can plan a meaningful educational pathway as well as career. Now, these circles or these steps are also supported by 3 questions. And these 3 questions, I think most probably wouldn't be too foreign, especially to those who are from the secondary schools, right, as well as the ITE, because these 3 questions are, who am I? Okay, where am I going? And how do I actually get there? So let me elaborate more about knowing yourself. So in knowing yourself, it is actually important because only by knowing yourself will you know what are your likes, what are your dislikes, what are your can and cannot, right? And by knowing that, it will allow you to go for a career, okay, that you think you will be finding meaningful as well happy, as well as you can actually achieve. And how do you actually go about knowing yourself? Well, there are a few ways. So one way is really knowing what is your unique sets of values, your interests, your personality and skills. So how do you actually find out more about this? Well, you can talk to people, right? Observe your own behavior in certain situations. Okay, by understanding what are those values that you have, what are the interests that you have, your personality and skills, there will be jobs, okay, that will be able to use all these strengths of yours. Next, it's really about whether you have those interests and ability that you can actually develop that can contribute meaningfully to society through your profession. Now, what does it mean? Like, for example, let's say that you have an interest in knitting. Okay, you have interest in knitting, and if you are just knitting for your own purpose, then that is really not an interest that is geared towards society, towards the profession. But let's say that you like knitting, and you think about, say, hey, I can actually knit those covers for people to put masks. Yeah, then actually there is a benefit to what you are doing, and therefore that you can actually develop skills in this and towards a career. Okay, so something to actually be mindful about when you actually look at interest linking to career. Now, the third is really about knowing yourself is very important so that you can actually lead you to a better career decision. Now, because if you're to going in without knowing what are your likes and dislikes, later on when you are going through the Polytechnic education, the JC education, or even the IT education, you will be lost, okay, as you move along. But if you know that this is where your passion lies, this is where your interests are, and you know that this is your value, all right, the possibility of you staying in that particular career, okay, will become much higher. Okay, so something that is important. So then the question is, what are you interested in? Right? So there are not many people have the many different kind of interests, music, books, and these will be one of the parameters that you can actually use, okay, to inform yourself, okay, to find out whether you want to actually pursue a career in that particular area. Okay, but this is more observational. But are they actually more quite scientific way of looking at things? Well, for those who are from the Singapore secondary schools as well as for ITE, I think you have heard about the My Skills Future. Okay, so in the My Skills Future portal, there is this 4 assessment. Okay, one is the career interest, second is the skills confidence, third is work value, and the fourth is the learning style. Right, by going through all these assessments, it will allow you to give you a better appreciation of what are your interests, what are your ability, as well as what are your values. But it must be coupled with your observation as well, because no scientific tools are 100% accurate. Okay, but it gives you a sense. So always use these results, okay, with finesse, meaning talk to people about this, especially you can actually talk to your ECG counselors in your secondary schools, or even your ECG counselors in your ITE respectively. All right. Now, when you actually do the assessment, especially the career interest and the skills confidence, it will generate a 3-letter code. Okay, so these 3-letter codes, we'll call it the Holland code, or in short, we call it RISEC as well. IRIASEC. So what do these RISEC really mean? I will not bore you by reading these particular slides, but let me use an example. Okay, let's say that your parent wanted you to get a cabinet, okay, for your room. Okay, now if you're R person, you'll be very excited to go to IKEA and then go and do a DIY cabinet. Okay, so when you actually buy the particular cabinet, don't bring it back home, you can't wait to actually start building it. Okay, that will mean typically you're an R person. Now, if you're an I person, when you actually got that particular cabinet, you will throw away the instructions and you will look at it. Okay, this screw, where should it go? Oh, this panel, where should it go? You'll be very investigative, right? Trying to find out how this actually work and how can you actually piece it together without following instructions. Now, for an A person, so A doesn't really just mean about singing, dancing, drawing. Okay, it's more than that. Let's say that you needed say a coffee table at home, and you know that there's a discarded cupboard somewhere, and no cupboard got a flat surface. Then you may be creative enough to actually convert that particular cabinet, okay, to become a coffee table, by with spring and things like that. So that also means that you're also an A person. An S person would be like, okay, you know that that particular person needs a cabinet, all right, you'll be very helpful to go and help that particular person build that particular cabinet, as well as also when you actually build it, you like people around you, right? You invite people along, chit chat with each other before you actually start building that thing. Okay, that will also mean that you are S person. Now, E person is when you know that let's say you need to actually build a cabinet, but you just don't have the ability, and you know that friend of yours is an R person, right? You will be able to persuade that R person to actually help you do it. All right. So if you are such a person, then you are more towards enterprising person. Now, a conventional person is someone who says that, okay, I need to build a cabinet. Okay, I'll go IKEA and get that particular DIY cabinet. Then, okay, I get it already. Now, okay, what to do? You follow the instructions of the menu. Okay, step by step. 5 panels, you'll count number of panels. Let's say 10 screws, you'll count 10 screws. Right? You differentiate the kind of tools that is required, right, as listed in the instruction booklet. Okay, and then you follow it step by step. Okay, panel A here, panel B here, screw A here, screw B here. Okay, if you are such a person, then you are a C person. Now, no, there's no one code that predominantly is you. Okay, all these codes are you if you do the assessment, but they are the top 3 codes that typically be looked at. Now, if you want to know more about this, right, do the MyDoSfuture assessment and bring your results to your ECG counselors in the respective institutions or secondary schools, and they will be able to actually help you to decipher this information further. So with that, okay, I'll pass this time over to Charlene, who will share with you further the remaining 3 bubbles in that particular planning cycle. Charlene, over to you, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Edward. So indeed, knowing yourself is actually the first step. So again, I want to emphasize, as what Edward has said, knowing yourself means that you have to understand what is your interest, what are your skills, and what are your values. And if you know these 3, it answers the question, who am I? Right. So after knowing yourself, let's move on to the next step, which is exploring your options. In other words, we are also answering the second ECG question, where am I going? Okay, at this juncture, I'd like to pause and share that if all you guys are watching from YouTube Live and you have a question for Edward or me, okay, so look out for live chat in your YouTube screen. Okay, I think it's on the right-hand side, and you can actually post a question to either Edward or me. Or you can also share a comment about how much you love our presentation. So hope to hear from you guys. Yeah. So to work out where you are going, okay, let me move on. Okay, so to work out where you are going, you will need to figure out, what are the available education pathways. So a lot of you listening out there may have already decided on a pathway. So you may already decided that, I think I want to go to a JC, okay, and I want to actually take this subject combination. Okay, so what I would like to encourage everyone here is to always keep an open mind, and explore all the pathways that are presented to you. Okay, in ECG or in education and career guidance, okay, we advocate this thing called an informed decision. So what we mean by an informed decision is that you find out as much as you can about your options. Okay, you reflect on the information. After you reflect, you choose and make a decision. Yeah, so it is perfectly okay to reject an option after you have actually explored it. Okay, so in a nutshell, do pay attention to what I'm going to share about the 3 options and consider all the 3 options. Okay, so many of you out there could be from a secondary school. You could be a secondary 3 or secondary 4 students. You could also be in ITE, considering whether you want to actually progress in your education pathway. Or some of you could even be parents who are concerned about your child's pathway. Okay, so they are all together in a nutshell 3 pathways for post-secondary. Okay, so which 3 pathways am I referring to? So we can refer to the purple part of the screen. And there's number 1, that's the JC, Junior College and Centralized Institutes. So in Singapore, we have actually 19 of such options. And typically, you spend 2 to 3 years in a JC or a Centralized Institute, and the end goal of that is actually A levels. Okay, we have the second option, which is in Polytechnic. Okay, in Singapore, we have 5 polytechnics. Okay, and you will spend 3 years in a polytechnic, the end goal is actually a diploma. Okay, so what is not mentioned here is also the likes of arts institutions like LaSalle and NAFA, and they offer legit diplomas in arts and design. So in arts and design is something that you desire or something that your child actually wants to consider, okay, do explore the websites of LaSalle and NAFA. Okay, and there's also the third option, which is the ITE, Institute of Technical Education. So over here in my chart, it says in very faint font that is 1 to 2 years, but actually in IT education, it can go up to 4 years, depending on which level of qualification you are at. So in ITE, you will graduate with NITEC, or higher NITEC. Okay, so there are three main ways how these three pathways will differ, and I will go through them one by one. Okay, the first one that I want to talk about is the purpose of qualification, which I briefly touched on just minutes ago. Okay, so in JC and in centralized institutes, bear in mind that we are looking at the A levels. And when we look at the A levels, we are looking at preparing the student for the university. Okay, and the JCs, we are more broad-based, so meaning that you can take either science or humanities streams, or in Millennium Institute's case, you have actually the stream of commerce. It is very good for students, okay, who have not exactly determined which career or which industry that they want to choose. This is in sharp contrast with the Polytechnic. Okay, so in a Polytechnic, after 3 years here, you graduate with a diploma. And the unique thing about Polytechnic education, as well as even ITE education, is that we make you employable individuals. And over here, I want to assure you that all the local polys here regularly review our diplomas with the industry. Meaning, if we do offer a diploma for enrollment, there is a need for such students within the industry. Okay, so we guarantee that our graduates are actually employable. Okay, similarly for ITE, okay, they also fulfill industry needs in terms of employment. And the difference is that you go out with a qualification, which is NITEC and higher NITEC. Okay, generally, for the Polytechnic as well as the ITE, the pathways are exceptionally good, especially if the student has a career or industry in mind already. However, we do note that increasingly, we do see many ITE students who actually upgrade themselves after they finish their education, and they come to the poly and they do a full-time diploma, or in some cases, they do a work and learn diploma that's offered by the ITE. And we also have our fair share of Polytechnic students who actually progress for further education within the university. Okay, the second factor that how these three pathways differ is actually this thing called the learning style. So my question to all students who are listening out there is, what kind of learner are you? Okay, do you understand a topic well by listening to lecture, or by reading about it in a textbook? Do theories actually excite you? If they do, and the approach is what you like, okay, this is going to be quite similar to what the JC and institutes does. And I will term this the academic learning approach. Okay, remember, previously I mentioned that in JC, we go deep into the various modules. Okay, or do things only make sense to you after you do an experiment, a project work, or activities associated with a particular topic? If this is you, you are probably a more hands-on learner. And in that case, a Polytechnic and ITE environment might be more suitable for you. Right, so this is what I mean by style of learning. Okay, and the third factor that we're looking at is actually student life. So when we talk about a JC, it really resembles a secondary school. So you have your fixed timetable, you have your uniform, you have a fixed classroom that you belong to. And similarly, when in your secondary school, you work towards the O-level exams, whether you are in a 4-year or a 5-year track. Okay, in a JC, you work towards a major exam called the A-levels. Okay, so in poly, we often call poly a glimpse to adult life. Okay, so there'll be no uniforms, timetables could be really more flexible. And I would say the poly has a bigger community. So on each year basis, we take in about 5,000 students. So you could be looking at any point in time, 15,000 students within the poly. So it's really quite a big group of people, and a big network that you can look at. Okay, and in Poly, there is no major exam in year 3. But what we do is that we do a cumulative GPA, meaning that you need to be motivated and work towards your score right from term 1 when you are here, which is why Edward mentioned about being self-directed in Poly, because you really need to start working from term 1 onwards. Okay, ITE is a little bit like a hybrid of both the JC and the Poly. Okay, so in ITE, there is actually a structured timetable. Okay, there is actually a uniform, but interestingly, the uniform may mirror industry needs. So if I don't recall wrongly, in ITE is where they offer business courses, you will see actually the male students wearing long sleeve shirt, and sometimes they actually put on a tie. Okay, so it's kind of cool and quite an interesting uniform. Okay, and in terms of the grades portion, they also work on the GPA concept, like the grade point average concept. So meaning that consistent work is actually needed throughout, your ITE education. And both the Poly and ITE education also offers this thing called the internship. So meaning that we send our students out to be attached to industry partners to get them ready, for the working industry. Right. Okay, so if a polytechnic education is where you want to go, I have actually 2 tips for you. Okay, my first tip is really look at all the 5 polys, because each polys actually offer pretty different may offer different courses that are really unique to them. Okay, so for example, in TP, we have the diploma in law and management. We have the diploma in psychology, and these qualifications are actually not found in the other polys. Okay, in TP, in our aerospace school, we also collaborate with, in fact, we are the only poly that collaborates with Tensor Technical Training to train our aerospace students to get them industry ready. Okay, so there are all these unique factors about each poly that you may want to find out about. Okay, on the other hand, you have very specific interests. For example, if you think that sports science is something that you want to go into, then perhaps, Republic Poly is the poly that you want to take a second look at. Okay, so in a nutshell, look at all the 5 polys, examine the courses. Okay, the second tip that I have for you is really to look at the modules in the diploma. Okay, why do I say that? Okay, firstly, sometimes when we talk to year 2 students, when we talk to present students, year 1 or year 2 students in a poly, we do get some feedback from students that they are in this particular course and they didn't know that they're going to cover these modules in this particular course, and they realize that they don't quite like the modules. Okay, so this problem could be avoided if before choosing the course, you take a second look at the modules, right, that are being covered in the diploma. Okay, and also the reason why we should look at the modules in the diploma is the fact that sometimes very similar courses. So for example, all the 5 polys will offer a diploma in business. So a common question that we get is, which poly is better in terms of diploma in business? Okay, so my answer to that is that all the courses is same but different. Okay, there will be some different specializations as well as curriculum within each business course in the 5 polys. So be sure not to choose a course just based on the title, but look into the modules so that you know what you are studying and what's coming up ahead of you in year 2, in year 1, year 2, and year 3. Right. Okay, exploring your options, and knowing about your pathways, is also about understanding what is the world of work, especially if you are considering an education in Poly and ITE. My question to you will be, where does your education lead you in terms of work? Okay, so if you are considering a diploma, the Polytechnics actually make it pretty intuitive for you guys. So in all the Polytechnic prospectus for the diploma, there will be a section that is called career opportunities as well as career prospects. Okay, remember just now in our talk, we actually said that we mentioned that a Polytechnic prepares you for the work. So when you look at the career prospects section, that will be the positions that you can qualify for if you graduate from the diploma. So over here in my screen, this is a screenshot from the Temasek Poly Diploma in Electronics website. Okay, so when I look at career prospects, you'll be able to see that when you take on a diploma in electronics and after you graduate, some of the positions that you may consider after graduation could be things like project engineer, could be system integration engineer. So do you know about these positions? Do you understand what these positions are? So if you don't, you can actually read up about them or you can actually talk to someone about it. And exploring the world of work also means that you understand that technology will definitely affect your life and as well as your jobs. So my question for you here is that, is the job that you are interested in or is the career that you are interested in risk of being replaced by automation and robots or AI? And I have an interesting site to recommend here. Okay, so I recommend that you take a screenshot of this thing that you are seeing here or a photograph of it. Okay, this is a site not by TP, but rather it is by BBC UK in collaboration with Deloitte, a consultancy company, as well as Oxford Uni. So what can you do in this site? Okay, what you can do is that when you get to the site, key in a job title, and it will actually computate the likelihood based on the data that they have. The job will be automated in the next 2 decades. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a while to allow you to actually take a screenshot. Okay, let me give you an example how the site works. Okay, so assuming I'm going to key in this job, which is electrical and electronic technician. Okay, and when I key in, I click on find out my automation risk, a percentage will come up to tell you that how likely this job will actually be automated. So in this case, it says that a job like an electronic technician is quite likely to be automated and is actually 83%. Okay, I'm going to share with you another example over here. So I'm going to key in another example, electrical engineer. And when I click on find out my automation risk, and this is what it says, it is quite unlikely, likelihood of automation, 10%. Okay, so when you explore this particular website, right, don't just look at the percentages, okay, but rather I'd like you to think about why are some jobs easily automated and why are some jobs not easily automated? Okay, in a nutshell, certain jobs are easy to automate because as robots and artificial intelligence gain improved capability, manual tasks or repetitive tasks, they can be taken over. However, when it comes to jobs that require creative problem solving, that requires soft skills like negotiating skills and social intelligence, these are the aspects that robots, it will be more difficult to actually for robots to take over, right? So it's also important to note that regardless of which path you choose, whether you go to JC, you go to Poly, or you go to ITE, right? The world is constantly changing, and that is why I have it in big yellow box here. Lifelong learning is really important. So we need to have a lifelong learning mindset to constantly upgrade ourselves, so that we can keep up to date, with the changing world, with the current skills, and be competitive. In fact, I will call that the best insurance, for job security, lifelong learning. Okay, so we come to, so now that we've answered the second question, so we're going to come into the third question, which is this question, where am I going? Or in other words, how do I make a decision on where I want to go? Okay, so I have some tips for you over here. Okay, number one, find out as much as you can. Okay, and I assume that everyone attending this webinar is actually doing that. And that's why you are attending the Polytechnic Open House. Okay, so after you find out about all this information, reflect on the information. So for example, just now, Edward shared about the RISEC code. If you find that, I'm not very sure what my RISEC code is, this thing sounds vaguely familiar to it, go and do the assessments that is my skill in my skills future. Okay, and number three, I think it's important in every decision to have a plan A and plan B. So try not to be in a situation where you are single-minded, you only have one course that you want to go, okay? Because that is going to be very dangerous. Of course, my question is, what if you don't get into the course? That is your only choice. So always have a plan A and plan B so you can work out other choices that you have, okay? And seek advice from significant others. So who are significant others? Okay, it could be your friends. Okay, I know a lot of us talk to our friends. Okay, but also talk to your parents, talk to your teachers in your school, talk to your lecturers. And sometimes by talking to them, number one, you could learn from the experiences that they have, because they would have walked the same path as you did, making the same choices. Okay, number two, they may reveal some blind spots that you have not considered. So meaning that when I talk about blind spots, are there things that you have not considered in the making of your decision? So sometimes when you talk to people, people will be able to point it out to you. And I also want to encourage you, go to your ECG counselor in your school, especially if you are from a local secondary or ITE. Okay, every school has an ECG counselor that's assigned to it. So please go and talk to them and clarify any doubts and any thoughts that you have. Right. So take action. So how do you get to, if you have made a decision, how do you get to the decision that you have made? Or sometimes it is not about, or sometimes it's not about making a decision. Sometimes in the process of making a decision, you discover that you do not have enough information to make a decision. Okay, so, for example, if you decide that, I do not have enough information to decide if the polytechnic education is for me, what can I do? Okay, so one thing you can do is to actually attend the open house and to make the best use of the open house. So what do I mean by that? Attend the webinars. So we have webinars that schedule over all 3 days by the various schools, and some of the webinars are actually presented by students. So come and hear from our students' perspective of what's poly life like. Okay, and number two that I always want to encourage students to do is to ask questions. So there is really no stupid questions. Okay, so if you are too shy to ask online, go and ask your ECG counselor in the school. Okay, ask questions and clarify your doubt. And number three is really to explore all the schools in TP as well as beyond in other polys as well. Okay, when I talk about exploring all schools, okay, I'm talking about these 6 schools in Temasek Poly, and it is very important to explore all schools. Okay, so for example, I will tell you one example why I say that. If you are interested in diploma in chemical engineering, okay, I want to highlight to you guys, diploma in chemical engineering does not fall under School of Engineering. Rather, it falls under School of Applied Science. So if you had been very intense and only explored School of Engineering, you would have missed out chemical engineering, which is actually housed in School of Applied Science. So glance through all 6 schools that we have and look at the diplomas that we have and see whether, there's any that, your heart really wants to go into. Right. Okay. So I've come to the end of my my portion, and right now it's really about question and answer. Yeah. And again, I want to repeat that, if you're watching this from YouTube, on the right hand side of your screen, there's actually a live chat, and Edward and me will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Yeah. So perhaps let's look at it to see whether there's any questions. We'll just hang on for a while to see whether any questions come up. I don't see any at the moment.
Well, actually, don't need to worry if you don't have any questions now. Later at 4 p.m., there's also a segment called the Ask ECG. So during that time, you can also pose your question, especially after you have looked through, gone through the different schools, or talk to different people, and you may have some questions then. Yeah, but we do have a question now. Actually, you want to ask a question?
Okay, we do have a question for Angela, and it's directed to Edward. Okay, Angela, I think you are a parent. Angela says, "Hi Edward, I've done a skills future assessment with my son before, and found him to be more S&E person. Will business-related course be suitable for him? He is eligible for both PFP and DPP."
So thank you, Angela, for the question. So I will assume that your son is currently taking his N level. because you did mention that it's a PFP as well as a DPP. And if your son is also going to take, also have O-level subjects, yeah, then you may want to actually wait about a while more to wait for his O-level results to be out. Then you will know whether which is a better pathway for him. Is it either the PFP or the DPP? So that's the first thing that I want to actually highlight. Now, with regards to the skills future assessment, all right, if your son is at S&E, yes, if you look at the job that is being generated, so in the My Skills Future, there is actually a tab to list out the jobs that is suitable for people who have a certain code. Right, you'll find that typically they are more business-related courses, because business courses typically needs people who are social as well as enterprising. But you will also be surprised to actually see that S&E also have healthcare-related kind of jobs. Like for example, a counsellor, okay, typically we also have an S, right? And also sometimes they also have an E, right? So don't let this code be restrictive, okay, to the kind of career or the kind of courses that your son is going towards, right? Be a bit more mobile-minded. Now, the purpose of having that particular code is so that you can actually start researching. Okay, yes. So the way to actually start exploring is look for those courses that is related to S&E first. Now, more importantly is also your son. Is he interested in business-related courses? And if he's not interested in related courses, okay, the results may show that he is suitable for it. But if he's not internally not interested, going into those courses, he may not be able to actually succeed that well. Yeah, so like all assessment, it is taken with a pinch of salt, so to speak, although according to research, it can be quite accurate, right? But what is also important is to have conversations with your son, right, to find out whether he's okay to go towards business-related courses. And if so, yes, right, by all means, go and apply for it. But do make sure that you do a research on the modules that are being offered by the different diploma as well. Okay, because you cannot just look at the title, say, okay, business diploma. Okay, so that would be the course. Look at what are the subjects that they actually offer. For example, for business, during their third year, they can actually do electives. All right, so you may also want to find out what are those electives that the students will be studying, and would then be the area that he or she wants to focus in. Because even in business, okay, only some of the what I call that specializations require to have an S&E. For example, let's say you're in marketing, all right, then maybe an S&E becomes more important. But let's say they're in accounting, right, which is also a business, right? Then the S element may not be that important, right? Something to actually take note of. I hope that I've answered your questions, Angela, yeah. So next question I saw here is I want to know what's the difference between PFP and DPP for my son. Shulin, are you familiar? Or okay, so let me take it. So PFP is PFP and DPP. They are actually for N-level students. Okay, not for O-level students. PFP is the Poly Foundation Program. Okay, DPP is the direct entry schemes for Polytechnic. Okay, how is this two different? Well, first of all, the aggregate requirement is different. All right, if you look at the ELMAB3, okay, which is the requirement for both programs, okay, for DPP is 19. For PFP is 12. So in other words, PFP requires it to be a bit academically stronger as opposed to DPP. Okay, the pathway is also different because PFP goes directly into Polytechnic. For example, in Temasek Poly, we also have the PFP, right? So they come in as year 0. So what do you mean by year 0? Meaning that they will be studying fundamental subjects before they will be streamed to their diploma after a year, after they've completed PFP. Okay, while DPP is whereby the student will go for higher NITEC first. Okay, the higher NITEC course will be related to a cluster of diplomas. Now, once the student manage to get the required GPA, okay, then they will automatically be streamed to those diploma programs. Okay, although the students can also select. Now, I actually encourage you to go into the different websites. So there is you just do a Google to search PFP, and also to Google DPP from the internet, and there will be actually more up-to-date information available to you. So I hope that I have answered the misplaced question. Yeah. Oh, so Angela was saying that he's only interested in business related. No, that's okay. Yeah, but also do look at the modules that he will be actually studying. Yeah, and also don't just focus on Temasek Poly. Focus on other polytechnics as well. Right, to actually look at which are the programs that you think is most suited. Okay, because business being business, there are also many different kind of variations. So something to take note of.
Yeah, okay. I just want to add on to what Edward is sharing about the business school. And the business school is really exciting. So we have a big range of diplomas, like what Edward has mentioned, it's accounting and finance, and in TP we even have culinary related diploma that's sparked within the business school, because they learn about the business management portion of a restaurant as well. And we also have like communication and media management, a little bit more mass comm like that is within the business school. Okay, so Angela, I think it's very good that your son has an interest in business related courses. So besides looking at the various courses, another possible point is to look at what are the career opportunities that each course actually graduates to. Yeah, because in the Polytechnic, as what we mentioned, we train students to be employable, and one way is to explore the career opportunities associated with each respective business diploma, and to see whether that's something that actually resonates with your son. Yeah, and okay, I also want to point out that if you still can't decide on which business diploma, okay, there is a common business program. Okay, how the common business program works is that you come into TP under the common business program, and you only make your decision on which diploma you go to after the end of your first semester. So you can also consider that route as well for the common business program. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the add-on clarification. Yeah, so another question that I have here is if a students get into DPP, how does the GPA affect the chances of getting the course we get into Polytechnic? Well, if you go to the DPP website that is by ITE, all right, they actually classify the courses into three main clusters. There is the applied science cluster, the engineering and info communications technology cluster, as well as the business services cluster. All right, so there will also be for progression to first year of relevant Polytechnic courses, there is some raw NITEC GPA that the students needs to meet for applied science, and there's also raw higher NITEC GPA requirements that is required for the students to meet for engineering, info, communication technology, as well as business and services. So I encourage you to go to those websites. Okay, go to the ITE website to actually find out this information. All right, but in a nutshell, what I understand now is that for engineering and info communications technology, the raw GPA for the coming semester, the coming year, okay, GPA is more than 2.5, okay, for higher NITEC, excluding CCA bonus point. All right, for business and services related, for the higher NITEC GPA must be more than 3.0. Okay, to go into the from the higher NITEC to the DPP. So all this information is available online, right? I do encourage you to go and find out this information as well. Yeah. So Angela was also adding to say that we know that the RP is applying problem-based learning. What approach will TP be using? I think this particular question would be quite difficult for us to answer as an ECG, all right, because this is related to the pedagogical approach of the Temasek Poly, right? Maybe this question would be better answered in the on Saturday, all right, because on Saturday, the principal and the and some of the registrars and all would be there, all right, and you may want to actually ask this question as to what is the pedagogical approach, okay, that is being adopted by TP. But in general, okay, all polytechnics use a more applied learning kind of technique. Okay, meaning that if you were to compare it with JC, all right, JC tends to be more academic, so it's more subject based, right? For Polytechnic, it is those courses those modules that you actually take are specific to some industrial skills, all right? And how to actually teach these industrial skills really depends on the kind of diploma, okay, that you are going for. But be assured that there will be a lot of lab work, there will be a lot of practical, okay, because we do understand that students from coming into the Polytechnic needs to be a bit more hands-on. Yeah, so yeah. So there is another question, which is biotechnology is more similar to bioscience and biotechnology. So is this a comment or is it a question? So here it says that for medical biotechnology, it is more similar to biomedical science or well, that's where you actually need to do deeper research, okay, onto the modules that is being offered. Okay, don't look at the title of the diploma program. Okay, by looking at the title itself, sometimes it doesn't bring it a lot of justice. Okay, look at the modules that is being offered by each of the diploma program. All right, and see from there, make a sense. Okay, whether is it actually similar or not similar. Because, like for example, here is a confusion is medical biotech, biomedical science. All these seem so similar, but what is the difference? All right, one way is also to make use of the open house. Go to the respective diploma, can ask this question, right? Use this opportunity because all the 5 polytechnics are currently having their open houses. All right, if you feel that you want to figure out more about the different kind of programs that is being offered by different poly, go and visit the open house by the other polytechnics as well and ask this particular question. What's the difference between them? Yeah. So Teresa was saying to be in medical, is it biomedical? Shirley, you want to answer this or you want me to take it?
Okay, Teresa, okay, I'd like to clarify. I think you are asking to be in medical as in to go into the to go into the industry of healthcare, or are you referring to go to be a doctor? Okay, so there's a difference. Okay, so if you are talking about being a doctor, being a doctor as per se, or going to, for example, the likes of NUS and the NTU to take the medical qualifications, I want to share that there's actually a list of qualifying diplomas that will qualify you to actually do your medical qualification in the universities. And this is actually public information on the NUS and the NTU website. Okay, but if you are talking about entering into the healthcare industry, then yes, biomedical could be an avenue in, and so are many of the other courses within the applied science applied science school as well. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, I think there's a question from Li Ping. Li Ping says that if a student gets into the common business program, would it be difficult for him to catch up in the second year as compared to the students who have chose the course in the first year? Okay, thanks Li Ping for the answer. Totally legit question, and it's really a very good question. So what happens in a common business program or for any common program in Temasek Poly? There's also the common engineering program, there's a common IIT program. Okay, in the first semester, before the student, all the business students in the business school will actually take the same modules, regardless of whether you are a common business program or whether you have already gone into accounting and finance. So you take the same modules. And at the end of the first semester, when the business student actually makes their choice, in the second semester onwards, when they're streamed into the respective diplomas, that's where the diploma specific modules start. So don't worry about your kids not catching up. Yeah, because in the first semester, before you make the choice, I repeat, all business students take the same modules. Okay. So again, to add on to Teresa's question, to be a surgeon. So that would be the first one that I mentioned. If you want to be a doctor and you are looking at, going into NUS or NTU medical school, right, there is a list of qualifying diplomas. Yeah, and check on that, and you will find if there's a particular qualification that you're interested in TP, you will find that it's actually find out whether it's actually mapped onto the medical qualification or not. Yeah. Edward, you have anything to add for this?
So let me add on. So in terms of the I call it the medical career perspective, so like what is being shared by Shalene, there is actually a list, okay, of qualifying diploma that allows you to go into this particular this particular field, but also look at the other requirements as well, because beside the educational requirements, there are other tests that is required, like for example, something we call the BMAT, okay, the British Medical Assessment Test, all right, well, which they actually needs to do. All right, so these are the additional requirements that you may want to actually look at. But what I think the bigger things that I actually see here is that, like what Jolene is actually talking about is reverse engineering, meaning, okay, like that particular career that requires a degree, for example, all right, then therefore you have this particular degree in mind. Always check back to see what is the diploma that allows you to gain entry into that particular degree course, for example. Okay, and because they are it's similar even for JCs. Okay, so sometimes those JC students they may do the wrong subject combination. Okay, so they actually have some what I call that career in mind, some courses, university courses in mind. But because of their subject combination mix, it actually closes doors and it doesn't allow them to actually go into those programs. So something also note, even for diploma, okay, it happens. Meaning that, let's say that you are in, let's say a business related diploma, all right, and later you want to go into a science related, even though you say, oh no, during secondary school, I do very well in science. Okay, that door may not be open for you. Okay, something to note. But although there are exceptions, okay, it's been shared by university to say that you will get the diploma in merit. Okay, that actually is a bit different. Okay, but then by the time you need more information about it, then that's where you can actually make an ECG booking, and then we can actually ship more information about those. Okay, but suffice to say now is that if there is a career that you have in mind that requires a degree, okay, look at what is the requirement entry for that particular degree program and then work backwards. But of course, okay, something to be mindful of is also, do you actually have the strong interest in it? Okay, and also do you actually have the ability, okay, to go towards that? And that's the thing that I want to actually highlight. Now, with regards to the question on the common business program, all right. Well, in all the polytechnics, okay, not just Temasek Poly, we do have the common program. So it can be common business, common engineering, even common IIT. In RP, they even have a common science program. Okay, and there's only an RP that has a common science program. Now, what does it actually do is that, like what was shared by Shalene, it is actually giving you time to actually to decide which is the area of specialization you want to go into. But you will already need to decide which is the industry that you want to go into. Meaning, you want to go into engineering, you want to go into business, you want to go into IT. But you do not know exactly which aspect of IT you want to go into, which aspect of business you want to go into, which aspect of engineering you want to go into, and go for the common program. Because they will give you snippets of what is to expect for each of these particular what I call that diploma program. Right. Let me share further about the common engineering, for example. All right, in common engineering, there's actually 7 diplomas that you can actually choose. All right, 7 diplomas. So, but note also, 3 diplomas you can select after first semester. The remaining 4 diplomas you can only select after second semester. Now, what does it mean? Okay, to address a Li Ping question, it's mainly because they actually look at the curriculum and realize that if the student is to only select those 3 programs that is meant for semester 1 in semester 2, the student will not be able to catch up. Okay, so therefore, they only allow them to actually do one semester that is common. Then when they go into the second semester, they will be specializing already. Okay, so rest assured that all these are being taken into consideration when the program is being developed and also being planned. All right, so therefore, don't worry that the students will not be able to actually catch up accordingly. Okay, I'm mindful of time. I think we have time for 2 more questions, is it? I think it's there about. Yeah. Which question do you think you want to pick, Shalene?
Okay. Okay, I think we have a couple. I think okay, there's a area. I think you had 2 questions. So first question is how many food courts are there? Okay, so
6, I think. But then you shouldn't be looking at just food courts because there are other food options as well. Okay, the advantage of being in Temasek Poly is that we have the Culinary Institute of America, is it? America? CIA, is it quite? See what? Yeah, correct. Whereby they actually do fantastic and very reasonably priced lunch, right? And also because in Temasek Poly we do have the culinary students, right? They also run restaurants, yeah. So there are these options as well, okay? Not just about the food court, but I think food court is about 6, is it? I think they're about, yeah. Sorry, I'm not very familiar.
Yeah, but I guess what Edward and I is trying to put across is that I think school life is pretty vibrant in the poly. Yeah. So in terms of like food courts, facilities, sports facilities, and all that, our students get the full slew of student life in our poly. Yeah, and I think you have a follow-up question about your son wanting to know what happens if you do not make the GPA cut. Okay, so I'm not very sure. Don't quite understand the question. So are you saying that what happens if you along the course of study you actually do not pass certain modules? I mean, is that what you mean? Okay, so I guess over here in the poly, we operate on a module basis. Okay, so what happens is that every semester, right, you can take up to 5 or 6 different modules, and then in the next semester you take another 5 or 6 different modules. So if you do not pass any of the 6 modules that you take in the first semester, you will need to actually retake the modules in the subsequent semesters lah. Okay, so that is one. Yeah, and of course, I also want to assure parents, here, I can see there's quite a few parents here, that, even though we talk about poly being a self-directed environment, okay, but we have very dedicated lecturers, okay, we love our students, okay, we really love our students, and, we will be there to actually with them with at every step, and to help them to actually learn and, and do well in the poly, okay, so that's actually our aim as well. Okay, I think Samuel, our director, has actually answered and he has corrected us. So TP has 13 eateries. So I think it's time for me and Edward to venture out of our office and try out the rest that we have not tried out. Okay.
Or we can wait for someone to treat us. Okay, lighthearted. All right, let's continue with the questions. So we do have one question which is on the minimum GPA requirement for entering common business program. Well, to be fair, okay, the selection of the common engineering program in semester 2 or semester 1, okay, is depending on merit. All right, so you're right. Okay, but what is the GPA requirement? That one I really don't know, because it all depends on how is it being administered by the business school, the engineering school, as well as IIT. But suffice to say, it is depending on the merit and also your choice. So, for example, let's say that you are interested in, let's say, okay, because I support the School of Engineering, I'll use School of Engineering as an example. So, assuming that you are actually interested in aerospace, okay, engineering. Okay, and then you put it as your first choice, and on you know that you will look at the JAE, right, the Joint Admission Exercise booklet. Aerospace engineering, the cut-off point aggregate points for O levels is quite competitive. All right, so but then let's say that this person put it as the first choice, but the GPA requirement, the GPA when it's on the first semester isn't that stellar. Okay, that what the first choice do give this particular student some advantage. All right, so the choice matters. And this actually applies even for those who are currently applying for JAE. Okay, please also be mindful that your choice do matters, not just your aggregate. Okay, so it's the same philosophy. So I think with that, I think there's no time for any further question, right? Yeah, but rest be assured, okay, if you have further questions, right, there is also another segment later at 4 p.m. today. Okay, and then you can actually go and ask us questions during that time as well. Okay, the reason why we are having this is because we do want you to actually explore, okay, the virtual fair, and after exploring the virtual fair, you have further questions as related to education and career guidance, right? Please feel free to drop by and you can actually ask those questions then as well. All right. So with that, I think I'll see you guys later. Okay, at 4 if you are staying until then. Yeah, if not, do enjoy exploring the Temasek Poly Open House, as well as the other polytechnics as well. All right, go around exploring. Shirley?
Yep. Okay, so see you guys later at 4. So if you have any unanswered questions or you have more questions for us, join us at 4 o'clock. That's today and tomorrow, and you can actually have a chat with us. If you're if your kid is in a local school, which is or any of you is in a local school like secondary school or ITE, there's always the ECG counselor that you can approach in your school. So help is always there for you guys. Okay. So see you guys around. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, and thank you, Samuel, for answering the SEN questions. And yeah, okay, see you guys later.